Mitch. I'm here with Seattle Indies, and we are talking to
Tomas Gomez.
And Tomas, why are you here?
So I'm here as a founder for my own company, Pancake Games. I've been running for the last 4 years, and I've been in the game industry for my whole life, or for the whole time I've been in the game industry. I've always been here in the Seattle area, so I'm very familiar with Seattle and games in Seattle.
We have a lot to talk about then. First, just tell me about Pancake.
Sure, yeah. So I started it 4 years ago. So for most of my career, I was an individual contributor. Decided about 4 years ago I wanted to do my own thing, and so started out all by myself. So I was a sole proprietor, sole founder, making it all by myself. Underestimated how much work that was, but did it regardless. And luckily I had a partner that was supportive. And yeah, did that for the first year, making that and getting funding, growing a team, and releasing our first product, Slime Heroes, about a month and a half ago.
Congratulations, that's
Thank
awesome.
you.
How big's your team?
We're 7. Yeah.
That's a great number.
Yeah, I like it.
Very manageable.
There's a couple more I'd like to get.
Yeah.
I still have a couple too many hats on. I'd like to take off.
I know that feeling very well.
We'll see. Yeah.
So you talked about Seattle.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Why is Seattle good for indies?
I think, I'd been in Seattle for the longest time just because I think Seattle's great. I think it originally started as like a big tech hub, and then from there, it just formed a lot of game companies. And then because of that, there's just like a big gaming culture here. I think across the US, I always, when you see people first move in here, they realize that there's a lot of gaming culture here. Like we have one of the biggest gaming conventions, PAX West here. And so I think it's always been, throughout my career, there's been a couple of times where me and my wife have been like, oh, should we move? Should we go here, there? But it's always been hard because this is just where everything is, at least for me, gaming, both career-wise. I also have family here. Yeah, and then outside of gaming, I'm a big fan of nature, and I love that I can drive 20 minutes out and go on a hike, and so it's been the ideal spot for me, both outside of work and work.
No, you're making total sense, and I think what's funny for me is everything you said is kind of why I love it here.
Yeah.
And why I make games here. Mm-hmm. So do me this courtesy, pretend that I am from Chicago.
Sure.
Right? And I'm actually from Chicago. So pretend I'm from Chicago and pitch Seattle game development to me.
Sure. It definitely depends on what you're looking for. Luckily, I've had a really awesome career where I've gotten to touch a bunch of different things. I've been at companies where there's I worked at companies like ArenaNet, where there's 400 plus people. I've worked at startups where there's 10 to 20 people. I've now started my own company and experienced the indie scene. And so it's definitely different here and there, where you're looking for the game, being in the game industry. But overall, because I think there's so much of that around here, there's so many different groups that you can join if you're into video game, or if you want to make video games or start being video games. And it ranges, if you're a developer, there's plenty of groups for that. We have Seattle Indies, which kind of if you're in the indie scene, or if you're just wanting to make your own games, there's a great group for that. And there's a lot of meetups, we have events, and so as a game developer, I think there's a little bit for everybody here. I think there's a wide range of stuff for gaming here in the Seattle
I love
area.
that answer. I think it makes total sense to me. Mm-hmm. You've been in indie the entire time. Is that correct, that you've been making games?
No, so just the last 4 years.
Just the last 4 years?
Yeah, so I was predominantly, most of my career is actually in AAA space. So I've worked at ArenaNet, I've worked for King, Activision, I worked in VR for Polyarc. I've been a lot of places. But the last 4 years, I left all that and decided to do my own thing. And so...
But why?
So I throughout my career, I'm very goal driven and like to grow and learn. And so most of the jobs I left in the industry is because I felt stagnant and I wanted to do more. And so I always tried to find a new job where I could do more. And so that just got to the point where I grew a skill set to where I was like, you know what, like I think I can do this. I feel like personally, I hear these like founders that like start out from college or get a couple friends together and like make their company first, and like, nah, like I felt like I had to grow my skill set to where I felt comfortable I could do it. So I took a while. I think I took like 11 years, like growing my skill set, going from company to company, and finally I was like, okay, I think I could do this. I can build my own game.
That's my own path also. So we share that, absolutely.
I don't know if it's the right path. I think everyone's path is different. There's some things I regret, some things I'm glad I did.
How would you characterize the last 4 years of being an indie?
Stressful. Yeah, just like surprised, chaotic. What's a good version of chaotic? I feel like chaotic's negative, but what's a good version of chaotic? Dynamic. Yeah, there's just a lot. So I spent those 11 years like trying to feel comfortable that like I can make my own game. But there's so much that I wasn't prepared for. Like most of my career, I was usually an artist. And I did programming here, a little bit there, made some tools, and so I had a fairly good broad skill set. But I didn't, and I even like led teams, and so like I felt like I was in a good position to be able to start my own company. But there's so much I didn't know.
What do you wish you knew when you started?
Well, so like just the business side of stuff, I think. And I went into it like, okay, I'm not gonna make my dream game. I'm gonna make a game that I think it can be successful. Like I'm trying to build a business. And so I knew that viewpoint, and I was very clear on my goals. I knew like the scale of the game I wanted to build. I knew all that. But I think there's still this absence of like just that business mindset. I think there was also being naive at what was needed for me to succeed. Mm-hmm. I think when I first went into it, I was like, oh yeah, I can build a solid prototype. Once I build that solid prototype, I'll be able to easily get funding. That won't be an issue at all. Like I'll make it really pretty. Like I'm a fantastic artist. Like this, no problem. And like I had some savings, and my wife and I like we decided early on like, okay, this is the time if we're gonna do it. We were like, this is right before we were planning on having a kid, like, and so we're like, we have some savings. We don't have any kids right now. Let's let you go on this adventure of what you want to do, and so yeah, we set a year. For me to find funding for my company to be able to fund this game I wanted to build. And so like 6 months come down the road, I have a solid prototype, and I like start shopping that around and showing people, and some people are interested, some conversations go a little bit farther, but nothing really happens. And then it's a slog after that. And it took a long time. And these are the things I was naive in, like, oh yeah, raising funding, I had no clue. Mm-hmm. Like starting a business and running a business, I didn't have any idea how to do that. Luckily, I had a lot of contacts who had run companies, because I'd been on all these companies, so I knew a handful of CEOs, and so I knew founders, and so I was able to ask them questions and them guide me a little bit, and so I had a little of guidance there, so that I greatly appreciate that. And then I utilize groups like Seattle Indies. There's a lot of help in there too to help guide me, and I think there's.
How would you characterize Seattle Indies and the people that you met there?
In general, I would say very helpful, very kind. I think I utilized it a couple of different ways. Like, I think at first I was like showing like my pitch deck and trying to get advice there, so on the business side. And then I was doing it all by myself for that. So I had a year where I was just doing it by myself, and this was like right at the end of COVID, so like I think everyone was kind of like just huddled in there. So I didn't have much interaction, and so those groups like Seattle News, I really appreciated being able to interact with people. And so I definitely utilized it, like showing art, like getting feedback there. I remember getting a lot of feedback on my pitch deck, and yeah, everyone was just really helpful. I think it still is. It's changed its name a couple times, but there's like a hangout group where you can kind of just chill and like work, and people just hang out there. And I know I utilize that a little bit more. Now that I have a team, I utilize those things a little less now, but when I was by myself as a solo dev, like trying to make my game and start my company, like I definitely utilized it a lot and appreciate it.
Now zone in on this, or focus in on this for me.
Sure.
Why are you an independent game developer?
Yeah, why did I do this?
Yes.
So before I started this, I worked at a bunch of companies.
Right.
And some I liked more than others. Some managers I liked more than others. Team structures I liked more than others. And so I'd worked at all these places, like, I don't know, like 8 or 9 different places to different lengths. And there's things I loved about some, there's things I hated about others. And one big driver for me wanting to build a company, which is one of my pillars for my company, is I did want to see more diversity in the game industry, and something I lacked in seeing in a lot of the companies I was at. And so I took a lot of the things that I loved about some of the companies that I had previously been at, and with that initiative, I wanted to build a company with those things. I also wanted to build, like, I think most of my career, I worked on different games. Some games I liked more than others working on, but and I am a person who likes to juggle a bunch of stuff, and so I really wanted to try making my own thing. Like before I started the company, I always had like a side project I was working on the weekend or at night, but I never could put my all into it because I just love like tinkering and doing stuff. And so yeah, we came at the end, it was like during COVID, I was doing a bunch of contract work, I was working from home, and I think I was like working on this project and I was like making art for them, and I was just like, and this is a couple years ago, I knew I wanted to make my own games and make my own company, but yeah, there was just this one evening where I was like making art for this contract job, and I was like, I'm doing this art that's similar to what I would just want to do for my stuff, like, why am I doing this? Like, I could be making my own stuff. And so then I had that long conversation with my partner, and we were lucky enough to have a good situation. So
you're very lucky.
Yeah, and so yeah, I just wanted to try and create something that came from me, and then take all those things that I loved and bring diversity in the game industry. So there's a lot of things, and then yeah, another driver for starting a company is I wanted to bring new voices into the game industry, and then with that so new voices meant new people that like this is the first job in the industry, and then train them up and have a studio where we're really trying to help people get in, because it's hard to get into the game industry.
It's very hard to get into the game, especially now.
Yeah.
It's just what it is, but I appreciate what you're doing, and I applaud what you're doing, just to let you know, just between us. We may edit that out, but I just want to tell you, I'm happy for you and I'm proud. So tell everybody at home your game. Tell everybody at home your game, how to contact you, where to find the game, all that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like, so the company that I started was Pancake Games. We released our first game, Slime Heroes, on PC and Xbox currently. So by the time you see this, we're definitely out on those. So check out that game. At least wishlist it on Steam. That still helps. But yeah, buy the game, play it, leave a review. Ideally positive.
Slime Heroes, you heard it here.
Slime Heroes. We've already announced this. We're still trying to figure out a release date. Maybe by this time this comes out, we're also going to be on Switch and PlayStation, so keep an eye out for that. And maybe we'll be on there at that point. And yeah, you can find us on all the social media as Slime Heroes. You can also join us on our Discord. I try to be pretty active on there. We have a small team of 7, and a handful of them are on there, and so definitely reach out. I'm happy to talk to anyone on there.
Great. Well, good to meet you. Thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you too.